This is the third installment of Bill Moyers' investigative reports on the chemical companies who manufacture such substances like PVC monomer. This particular installment is where Mr. Moyers allowed the chemical companies, or at least a couple of their representatives, to respond to what was reported in the program. In the process, of course, he doesn't give very convincing arguments, but in the interest of fairness, Bill Moyers was more than happy to accommodate their request or their desire for a presence, a counter, they attempted a counter argument. So anyway, here we are. Bye.
Now we want to discuss some of the public policy issues raised by what we've seen. With me are Terry Ossie, Vice President of the American Chemistry Council. Ted Voorhees, partner in the law firm of Covington and Burling. He represents the Chemical Trade Association in the Ross case. Ken Cook, President of the Environmental Working Group. As a matter of disclosure, the foundation I serve made a small grant to Mr. Cook's organization a few years ago, but I didn't meet him until a couple of 3 weeks ago. And Dr. Phil Landrigan, a pediatrician and chairman of preventive medicine at Mount Sinai School of Medicine. Mr. Ossie, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Given what we've just seen, how can the public rely on what the chemical industry says about the safety of synthetic chemicals?
Thank you, Mr. Moyers. If I were a member of the viewing audience tonight, I would be very troubled and anguished if I thought that the information presented during the preceding 90 minutes represented a complete and accurate account of the story. It does not. For nearly 2 years, this program has been in preparation. At no time during that 2-year period have representatives of this program contacted our industry, asked us for information, or provided an opportunity for us to appear on the 90-minute segment. We believe that it's a sad day in American journalism when two sides of the story can't be told, when accuracy and balance are not featured in the broadcast. It's our intention, in the limited amount of time that we have available this evening, to correct some of the errors that we found in the broadcast, but also to present a more complete picture of who this industry does and what it represents and the benefit it delivers for the American people. How can, turning to your question, Mr. Moyers, how can the American people be reassured that the products that develop are safe for the intended uses? We test our products and we report that information to the government. There are 9,000 chemical products on the marketplace today. They have been researched, they have been tested, and that information has been disclosed. We do not do this information alone. We work with some of the finest universities in the United States, people at Harvard, the University of California system, University of Massachusetts, independent researchers with world-class reputations. We have a major partnership with one of this nation's leading environmental groups, Environmental Defense. And through that partnership, we are disclosing information on those test results, no matter what they show. So I believe this commitment to openness and transparency, to working together, to identify information needs and to disclose this to the public is the path to greater confidence in the products we make.
Mr. Cook, you want to talk about
Well, it's interesting that you raised the question of testing, as I was struck by so many images in this program. One of the images was that of the x-rays of these vinyl workers who you had in your industry, medical doctors examining without telling them why they were examining them. Their fingers dissolving, and this new program you're describing, the symbol of it is two hands holding a globe. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at the logo for your program without thinking of those vinyl workers and their dissolving finger bones. As for testing, one of the things that was striking about Bill's results, as I was thinking about it, was just how little is known about the products of your industry showing up in people. Do you, for all your testing you're saying is being done, do you have any idea how many of the products of your industry, all your companies, it's a good bit more than 9,000, do you know how many show up in people? Have you even tested for that?
Let us respond to some of the issues you're raising.
You don't want to answer?
So you're testing?
Mr. Voorhees is going to respond to the issues that Mr. Cook is raising. I think the viewers deserve our correction of some statements.
Right, I'll return to them just for a minute, but how thoroughly are these chemicals tested before they come onto market?
They are tested using the best scientific methods available. And they are tested not only for their potential hazard, but when we test a product, when we submit that information to the government, we are using standards set by our government, but also international standards. We are applying the best laboratory practices that have been defined by the scientific community. We don't do this work in isolation. And when we develop a product, we have margins of safety so that whatever potential effects there may be, we develop those products so that they ensure safety many times below where there could ever be an effect. Subsequent legislation has ratified that approach that we have taken for many years.
But this is legislation that you have opposed. I mean, your own documents show, whether it's the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, straight on through. You can read the documents now for the first time that you've never made public before. And it's quite clear that every time there's an attempt to tighten regulation on your industry, protect citizens, communities from air pollution, water pollution, your own documents show how you've opposed that.
Let me bring Mr. Voorhees in on this.
Thank you. And let me say that I have met Mrs. Ross, and I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for her situation, having lost her husband to brain cancer. At a human level, I have sympathy. But no amount of sympathy can justify putting on a program that presents an incomplete, slanted, and essentially misleading characterization of what happened with vinyl chloride. And to take Ken's example of the hands as the first of a couple of examples, let me give. The show tells the viewer that this hand problem appeared in the mid-1960s and that it was treated as confidential and secret by the industry. What the show doesn't state is that as soon as that problem was found by the B.F. Goodrich Company, the doctor who found that problem in 1967 published his findings in the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is probably one of the most widely read professional articles read by doctors. And in that article on the hand problem, Dr. Creech included the very same X-ray images which you showed on your program as if they had been hidden and kept secret from people.
Did that document say that it was linked to the exposure to vinyl chloride?
It absolutely did. That was the whole subject
Why
of the
didn't the
article.
company tell Bernie Skaggs?
Bernie Skaggs' doctor knew about that because he read it in the Journal of the American Medical Association.
But
which
why
was
didn't the
published.
company tell him?
The company was telling his doctor. The person who would know and who would be able to react to something like that is a professional who would be able to see the relationship.
I believe the documents show that the company did not tell his doctor.
Well, it published the study of the hand problem in the Journal of the American Medical Association.
So was the doctor
in
was the doctor expected just to come across that in random reading? Why didn't the company tell Bernie Skaggs directly? He worked for the company, Mr. Voorhees. Why didn't they tell him?
The Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, is not random reading. It's probably the most widely read professional
Sir, you're not
journal.
answering the question. Why didn't the company tell its employee?
I don't know that they didn't tell Bernie
The
Skaggs.
documents suggest they didn't.
The B.F. Goodrich Company had a doctor at the plant. He was the author of this article in JAMA, and he would have, as workers came in to see him, he would have explained to them what their problem was, and I would expect that would happen.
Was Bernie Skaggs lying to me when he said the company didn't tell him?
I'm certainly not going to accuse him of lying, but what I'm saying is that the doctor at his plant published his findings immediately in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and my point is, the program has suggested to your viewer that this was an issue that was kept in secret. Far from keeping it in secret, it was published in the most widely read journal, and the x-rays that were supposedly kept secret were a part of that journal article.
40 years ago is a very long time. 40 years ago, there wasn't an Environmental Protection Agency. 40 years ago, there wasn't a Clean Air Act. I don't believe the viewers of this program are interested so much in what happened 40 years ago. I believe they're vitally interested in their own personal health and well-being today. They want to know if the products that we develop and market are safe for their intended uses. They want to know if the products that they're using in their homes are going to benefit them. And I believe the answer is...
Those are the questions, Terry.
They do want to know.
Those are the questions that I sent you a month ago and said, let's talk about these
Those are
public
the
policy
questions
issues.
I absolutely want to address.
What about that?
I think that's really... Today, there are many thousands of chemicals on the market. The number of chemicals that are registered with the EPA for commercial use is is not 9,000, it's over 80,000. That's about